Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a 500-piece limited edition launched in 2010. You can see a rare quality for IWC limited editions, individual numbering. This is the IWC Portuguese Tourbillon hand-wound F.A. Jones, reference 5447-05. The watch in red gold is 43.1 millimeters in diameter, 11.4 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 50.7 millimeters, and has a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the watch is exceptionally flat, so it'll fit underneath the cuff, but you can really tell from this overhead shot, it's also exceptionally broad. I wouldn't recommend this watch for a wrist smaller than mine. It is just incredibly flat and broad, and although large is the look for a Portugueser, I do think if your wrist were smaller than 16 centimeters, you'd start to have lug overlap, which is where I draw the line aesthetically. That said, it is very compact, and if you have a broad enough wrist for it, it is wonderfully flat and compliant with a dress cuff or a tight sleeve of any kind. Taking a look at the strap, you can see it's got some bolstering, some stuffing to give it volume. It is large rectangular scale alligator leather and the best of the large scale cut. It has a monotone stitch, folded edge, calfskin and black on the bottom, and you can see it is a brand new IWC factory strap. We have an IWC folding clasp you could appreciate externally, two different types of finish, polish and satination. Internally, all of high polish. You can see the B of Brogioli, which is the Ticino-based bracelet and clasp supplier to IWC. This is a nice piece of kit that helps to prevent you from dropping your expensive tourbillon watch as you don it and remove it at bedside. There we have the gold 750, 75% gold, 18 karat hallmark, adjacent to the Swiss hallmark of the St. Bernard's head with a little stamp of the assay office that assayed the case. And then on the reverse side, you could see the individual numbering once more, serial numbering, and the gorgeous reference 98900 movement. So this is based on the 98,000 series pocket watch calibers. Of course, F.A. Jones, and you could see his signature on the dial, came from Boston. He was an American watchmaker who wanted to take American watchmaking techniques and bring them to Switzerland where labor prices were lower, with the idea of exporting these watches internationally, and thus International Watch Company was born. The closed shops of the French-speaking Swiss regions did not want to take on American mass production techniques, so F.A. Jones went to the east of the country where labor costs were even lower, and the German Swiss out of Schaffhausen were both skilled and willing to try something new. So IWC, International Watch Company, was established, and F.A. Jones created it in 1868 in that German-Swiss region where to this day it retains its home base and factory. So this is a pocket watch movement, and that's not only in the tradition of F.A. Jones, who designed pocket watch movements, but the tradition of the Portugueser itself, which was created in 1939 when the Portuguese importers of IWC watches requested a wristwatch that was as accurate as a pocket watch. At the time, the only way to do that was to create an oversized wristwatch case as a vessel for an IWC pocket watch movement, because pocket watches were much more accurate and movement size at the time was the key to that. So the watch was designed purposely as a wristwatch, but it was designed to house a pocket watch movement, making it the first purpose-designed oversized wristwatch, as well as an enduring classic for IWC, which, though iconic, was seldom produced between 1939 and 1993, and it was only really after 1993 that the Portugueser line was brought back as a regular offering in the catalog. So we have a pocket watch movement in a wristwatch case in the tradition of IWC and of the Portugueser and of F.A. Jones. It is a very simple movement architecturally. You have the crown wheel, you have the ratchet wheel, we have an enormous pocket watch inspired swan's neck click spring, and then we have an extensible click, which is the little detent that prevents the ratchet wheel atop the barrel from driving backwards. We have a center wheel, third wheel, fourth wheel, and then we have a driving wheel for the tourbillon carriage, where the escape wheel would normally be. Now, the tourbillon, as you could see, is a flying tourbillon, so there is no upper bridge to obscure your view of it. That's one thing IWC did when it launched Tourbillon Portuguesers in the 2000s. It was late to the game, so make every tourbillon a flying tourbillon with no upper bridge to block your view. It's also a fairly high beat tourbillon as these things go, beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and you could see precision of adjustment and stability against shock is facilitated by a free-sprung architecture. Rolling over again to the reverse side. The manual wind movement has a 54-hour power reserve, and it is extremely large, being 37.8 millimeters in diameter, truly pocket watch sized to fit the Portugueser case. And because it pivots on ball bearings, it has a very securely braced tourbillon. And you can see IWC has inserted a gold medallion into the bridge underneath the tourbillon carriage. Probus Scafusia, a good solid watch made in Schaffhausen, the motto of IWC. Now, the watch is 5-position adjusted, which is the high horology and chronometer standard. And you can see it has some unconventional finishing elements. We have this bat wing-like bridge underneath the tourbillon, and there is a ripple-style Côte de Genève that emanates out from an imaginary center point at the base of the balance, like ripples across a stream. It's a wonderful design with engine turning on the base plate. You can see there are bevels, mechanically executed but handsome on the edge of the bridges. We have satination on the crown wheel core as well as the ratchet wheel, and then you can see the teeth of the wheels have been black polished. We also have golden chaton as pivots for the wheels, and this is a nod to the pocket watch era when the jewels would be pressed into the chaton and then the chaton would be pressed into the bridge, because the technology to precisely mount the jewels in the bridge was not always available. We have satination on all the wheels, also on the housing for the click and the click spring itself. All screw heads are black polished, and it is beautiful to examine from every position. We also have a 3/4 style bridge over the barrel and the drivetrain, just as we would have had in the pocket watch era. All of this water resistant down to 30 meters. Now, the watch on the dial side features elements that are characteristic of the Portuguesers, though much larger than the Patek Philippe reference 96 of the 1930s. They came of the same era and the same philosophy of form-fitting functions. We have a blending of fine lugs into the caseband. This is red gold, 5N, lots of copper, very dark, not pink, not rose. We have polished lug hoods, satinated flanks. You can see the edge of the bezel is somewhat stepped in from the caseband to make the watch look thinner than it is. There's a vertical lip to the bezel and then a concave profile that abuts the sapphire. Again, Probus Scafusia on the crown. We have a slightly domed sapphire designed to look like a vintage plexiglass. Applied rose gold indices and Arabic numerals. These Arabic numerals are similar to what you would have seen in the late 30s, along with the small seconds and the leaf or foy style hands. F.A. Jones provides his John Hancock at 3 o'clock. And then we have a lovely and beautifully finished bezel that frames the tourbillon, and you can see that it includes both satination on its top and then on both sides mirror beveling with mirrored interior surfaces to reflect the tourbillon, flat hairspring, and you can see that the tourbillon itself is finished to a higher standard than the caseback movement. So while the caseback movement is mostly mechanically finished, the tourbillon cage itself is hand finished, and it really shows right down to the escapement bridge, which is nicely executed. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this IWC Portugueser tourbillon hand-wound F.A. Jones.